I think the first thing we have to start with is the mayor. This is his budget, and the first thing we got to talk about is the property tax increases and the justifications thereof.
In general, in regards to the budget itself, I think you may have read somewhere that this is perhaps one of the hardest decisions of anyone in administrative or a council member, and that is to increase taxes to the public that we represent. What is in front of you, I think, is a statement of a 6.5% increase of your property tax across the board, except for affordable housing rentals. The reason, excuse me, reason for that simply was there was a one-unit classification we felt that should not be touched because of the times we are in. In regards to the necessity for raising the taxes, obviously that involves a lot of discussion of what and how much. In a very simplified manner, it was stated that after all different options was reviewed, that the best in regards to fairness for all was across the board 6.5%. Although there were a lot of pros and cons and discussion in regards to here or there or not here or not there. In regards to the why of 6.5%, I think from the very beginning, we all understood, meaning also the council, that there were so many things of the budget that was beyond our control. A good, excuse me, good part of the raise was because of things of legislative or because of union. Picking on the union element, using all round numbers of approximately $20 million short after all the cuts were made. Each department was asked twice to go back and make additional cuts. And despite all of that, you still come in, again, approximately $20 million short to balance a budget to be presented to you. And of that alone, I think pay raises would account to approximately $8 million, which is still basically unsettled. On the revenue side, I think was well publicized, and I know many of you, Mr. Kanuhoff, taking part in discussion of going to the state legislature to try to encourage a better and fairer distribution of the TAT to all counties, not just Hawaii County. And even at this point, we are planning for a lower end, at what we all were hoped for, and it is a disappointing lower end. And if that comes true, then we're talking about our debt on revenues, approximately a $2 million shortage. On the optimistic level, we were hoping for, quite a few $1 million increase instead of a cut.
The first question that popped in my mind is why the cost of Hawaii County government has increased at a rate of more than 3 times the rate of the population growth since year 2000. While the population of Hawaii Island has increased by 35% from 2000 to 2017, the Hawaii County operating budget has ballooned by 179%. At a campaign forum in Kona last year, Mr. Kim strongly criticized Mayor Kanoe's budget for 2016 as bloated and out of control, which he would correct if elected. Mayor Kim now wants to increase that bloated and out of control budget by $29 million for 2017 to 2018. Tax rates have increased up to 50% depending on the real property class. Hawaii County already has the highest property tax rates in all property classes except 3 in the state. 4 property tax rate increases in 8 years have put an immense burden on low and fixed income taxpayers, especially in West Hawaii, where property values are double the values in East Hawaii. Mayor Kim stated that the reason for the tax rate increase was to pay for the increases in employee wage compensation due to union contracts and the shortfall of the TAT revenue. However, he then added approximately $10 million for additional expenses, including 13 new positions, up from 6 in draft 1. Referring to the spreadsheet, the average cost per county employee, wages, health insurance, and pension, has increased by 55% from 2005 to 2017. The 2017 average cost per employee is 113,675. The 6.1 increase in the proposed operating budget is greater than the average annual real property appreciation rate. If this increase is proved this year, how is the county going to pay for next year's budget? Another tax rate increase? The proposed increase of 13 new positions bring a concerning issue to mind. During Mayor Kim's second term in 2005 to 2008, he increased the operating budget by 42% and created 326 new positions. The subprime interest recession struck in late 2008, mandating very painful major layoffs and furloughs for all county employees. There is no question if another recession will happen, only when. Is Hawaii County prepared for the next recession? Current economic cycles are about 8 to 12 years long. Although times are reasonably good now, we are now in the 9th year of this economic cycle.
It's hard because, you know, we see an increase, we see the taxes possibly going up, and that's something that we're going to have to deal with. You know, we see the economy in a good state, the tourists coming here. It's just really difficult, you know, to see all these good things happening in our community, and we have to raise taxes to support this budget and the increases that are made for this budget. You know, I truly haven't really been convinced yet. And I'm going to go back and really work hard to figure out all the different ways to adjust or not adjust, or see all the different methods of making sure that we can balance the budget that we have. It's just currently right now, you know, I get a lot of things from my constituents, and I know they're your constituents as well, about property taxes, especially in Kona, you know, the district that I represent. And it's truly hard, you know, to tell somebody that we're gonna raise taxes, and I know we're gonna do some exemptions for, you know, 70, 75, 80-year-old, if that even passes. But, you know, for like, it almost seems like we're taxing out our people. You know, it's difficult to live in Hawaii currently. Like, I'm having a hard time to live in my own district. That's why I'm having a hard time, you know, supporting this right now. And I know we're gonna figure out a way to do it, and I just don't know how we're gonna do it right now. I know that you've given us a way to do it, but it's gonna be tough. And, you know, I'm not gonna dwell too much about the TAT and what could have been and what we need to do further. You know, it's a state bill. You know, they're the ones that created it. They can take it away if they want to, which it drives me insane. We fought hard to get the TAT to the counties, and for that to happen and what they did with it is it's not cool. It just hurts a lot of the residents here in our counties, which they represent as well. It just doesn't translate well with me. But, you know, it's my vote in how we move forward is going to reflect how it's going to impact the residents that I represent. And I don't know exactly how I'm going to vote now, but it's going to be, you know, I'm really taking this as serious as I possibly can be.
Councilmember Ruggles.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha.
Hi.
Good morning. I don't have a question. I just mostly have comments, short comments. I just want to say that I appreciate how constructive the conversation has been in framing it moving forward, and also say thank you to the testifiers that came out and helped set the context for this conversation as far as the basic needs that we need to provide, especially in terms of public safety, mass transit, and affordable housing, homelessness. I agree that the money needs to come from somewhere. And I just want to say that I'm concerned about where it's coming from as it is, as far as how it affects the most disadvantaged populations on our island. And like you said, what is the most fairest way to balance the budget. I would like for there to be a way to protect those disadvantaged populations, the most vulnerable on our island. And as it is now, the increases as they're presented, to me, don't protect the most vulnerable on our island. And so I just want to say that now, and moving forward, I'll have a lot more questions, and I think we do have a little bit more work to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Judy Houle, and I have lived in Lower Puna for over 28 years. I have volunteered for Neighborhood Watch for many years, and I'm now the Hawaiian Paradise Park Neighborhood Watch President and the Puna Neighborhood Watch Coordinator. Puna Neighborhood Watch is a united group of representatives from over 20 subdivisions and communities. We are here today to support our police department in the importance of increasing their budget. Puna is estimated to have the fastest growing population in the state. By the year 2020, it's estimated to surpass the population of Hilo. Yet by comparison, Hilo has twice as many CPOs and more police officers than Puna. Puna's dispatch receives 5,339 calls for service per year, which requires police to prioritize and respond to an enormous amount of calls to cover a district the size of Oahu. The Puna district is comprised of many private communities paying association road fees and county property taxes. The county property taxes are 59.5% of the county revenue, with the highest percent increase for the proposed budget. The District of Puna should proportionately have an increased share of the county services, such as police, fire, ambulances, roads, and infrastructure.
I'm here today to say that crime in Puna is really increasing, and I hope the council can find a way to address it. There's nothing more important than feeling safe in your home. There's nothing more important than thinking about how your house is going to look like when you come back from town after getting groceries and things like that. Are you going to experience a break-in? Is your car still going to be there? We're having those sorts of issues right now in Upper Puna in the Volcano area. And we have elderly people, we have families, we have single mothers, and my husband and I are all concerned about how we have to tag team to keep someone at home all the time while we're coming down to town to make sure our stuff, our pets, our cars are still there when we come back. The police are doing the best they can. We support our police department 100%. I've recently become a member of Neighborhood Watch based on what I've been learning recently, and they're doing a phenomenal job, but we just need more, significantly more. So I would like the council to please consider finding room in the budget or coming up with new creative ways to support our police department to get more police officers on patrol.
If money was not an issue, as I told the police chief, we could easily double the police department forces and still be short. I think some of you obviously represent, especially of the rural areas that have made newspaper issues lately, like Ka'u and like Puna. The shortage of police officers there is not disputed. It's well known. We do wish we had the money to give to the police department to increase the services there.
In prioritizing, if we're raising taxes, how do we get at least not caught up, because I know that's not possible, how do we allocate funds if we're increasing taxes and include covering some of the public safety issues in our rural community? I get it. I get the numbers, but for me, it's still not acceptable, because while we go based off of stats, we have real people in these areas that this lady this morning testified When you fear leaving your house because you're not sure what's going to happen when you come back, or you have to make allowances for keeping somebody at your home is a place where you're supposed to feel safe. And I've been hearing this a lot. I'm very concerned that if we're raising taxes, this is an area that I think if we're raising taxes, it should include additional. And I know that it's a very high cost item.
I've been to a couple of those public meetings of exactly what you said. And I come out of those meetings very disgusted, depressed, saddened, disappointed, especially what you just said, when people on this beautiful place live in fear. And they've used that word, not wanting to leave their home, or being ripped off 3, 4, 5 times, et cetera, et cetera. My goodness, well, we don't have to talk to each other how hard it is to say no. Your job is to listen, but your job is a reality. One more police officer, just one more, per shift equates to 5 officers. And what does that equate to? $500,000 and more, or whatever.
Again, we have a tendency to just think in certain terms, right? Like almost automatons. But you brought it back. There are some underpinnings to this tax structure, and I really do thank you for that. The GET, as you know, Fresh and I last time we got cracks for supporting the GET, and I understand where you're coming from too. But if you could just pause for a minute, and I'm not asking you for any comment here. Maybe go back, talk with your people, and think about it. Because I know a lot of people talk about the GET as being a regressive tax, but it's not really a regressive tax. It is a neutral tax because it applies to everyone, whether you're rich or poor, the same way. A regressive tax is where it hits the poor more. A progressive tax where it hits the rich more. This is neutral. And the reality of the situation is it's going to help the poor more. It really will, because it's going to provide more transportation and more funds, which are going to be diverted to help the poor. It's going to lift everyone up, I believe. But just think about it. TAT, Mr. Kanuha, talked about it. Hey, it's a creation of the state. We argue about it till we're blue in the face. But at the end of the day, they make the decisions, and we got to deal with it now. And so that's what we're tasked with doing. We got to deal with it. 2%. You and I have had many discussions on this in the past. And I told you, Harry, if you ever bring it up, I'm not going to leave you, standing out there alone, because I agree with you. No offense to anyone else here who, supports the 2%. But I voted for the charter amendment, the 2% charter amendment, when it first came up. It failed for lack of a supermajority, which is required for charter amendments, okay? And this 2% charter amendment was actually passed after I'd left. But the more I thought about it, the more I had regretted what I had voted for earlier. Because what this does is the 2% means acquiring land, which is supposed to be done by bond floats, as you pointed out, is the most important thing in our budget. We're taking 2% off the top and reserving it for land acquisition. No other program in the county is afforded that kind of luxury. None whatsoever. So in that one statement, we're saying land acquisition is the most important thing in the county. I think that's wrong.
We all talk about this as Mayor Kim's budget, but I really think it's your budget. It's the council that controls this. It's the council that either brings in more revenue or doesn't, and he's the one that then has to figure out what can we do within that framework. And so for me, the question is, how do you raise the additional revenue that's needed without it being on real property taxes? And I think that this is really in the council's power to do so. I think it's too late for this year, but the real question to me is what you do for next year. And it's really, how much of your sort of political cost are you willing to do and do things that you're going to get responses or that people won't like. And I think in a way that it really needs to be the point person among you should be the one that would take the hit the most, not the one that's the least. It's sort of, and try to do these things in a fair way. I'm not going to transition to Bill 36. And this is the bill that would add additional exemptions for those who, of homeowners exemptions over age 75 and 80. I would oppose this. I put in my sheet, I'm commenting on everything, but I would oppose this. I think that it should be perhaps if you're over a certain income level. I know the first time that Mayor Knoy spoke about this in Waimea, there were a number of people in the audience that stood up and said, I'm over 75,000. I don't need this. Why aren't you doing this just for those who need it? Why are you, cutting it out? Why don't you do it whether it's over, whatever level of income, 100,000 or whatever, but not just make it where, okay, you're older and therefore, we're all trying to balance what's Pono. And so I just want to talk in terms of the TAT. Really, it's people, state legislators on our island that have led the effort to take that away from the county. Richard Onishi proposed 0, okay? And Mark Nakashima and Nicole went along with that. Why aren't they sitting here telling you what it is? You look at their newsletters. Oh, look at all the money I'm bringing in. They should be saying, thank you, county. Thank you, county, for letting us take that away from you.
And not to pick on them, but it was there. They needed money to balance their budget and pay expenses just like we all do. And this was what a place to take money from. Most of it, except for locals that's paid the hotel also, came from outside sources. The projected revenues for next fiscal year coming, projected, anticipated, is approximately $500 million, $500 million. Because of deviation from the original intent of that tax base, the TAT, the county governments will get approximately maybe 20% of it from 95%. What happened in between? It paid for the convention center. It pays for the tourism authorities in regards to their expenses. It paid for even a place called Turtle Bay land for acquisition. The intent initially was to help us. So where does it leave us? I think you've read enough times where Mayor Knoy put that on high priority, like the rest of the mayors. The 3 mayors, they came together. It goes back to my time also. You go there with cup in hand attitude. And from 95%, we're less than 20%. Out of the 20% takes our approximately 18%. And there comes your approximately $19 to $20 million. Calculated someday what it would mean to Hawaii County if one of their studies made up of county, private, and state people, what is fair share to the counties. Their formula calculation was they felt that 45% of the whole would be fair. I just said we get 20% and we're lucky. And now they want to cut that. I wish we had other tax revenues besides property tax. I hope even now that the legislature will review what they're doing. I hope I know members of the council have, excuse me for saying it, Mr. Kadua, cup in hand, but that's how I feel sometimes. I know how much time you spent there. I know definitely how much efforts the previous mayors did, including obviously the state Mayor Kinoy. They won't use that term. I feel like it's a cup in hand. You're begging for your share. And I'm saying it openly now because I have the podium. It was designed to help the counties, and now you ask the question, where else are we going to get revenue from?
And I know you said it earlier, you're not interested in increasing revenues, you know, with our free parks, that kind of stuff. But we're also sitting here, and I don't want to be snarky, but we weren't going to raise taxes, and that's what we're looking at. Do you have, or have you considered a plan to increase revenues by way of fees at our parks or other services that we provide?
I hope I don't have to. But I think we collectively may have to someday if we don't change the element of how funds are distributed. This is my home from birth. I am so proud, truthfully, of the principles of which our taxes are collected. I'm very proud that we are of value of respect of seniors. I'm very proud because this is why we give them more exemptions, that they would be not taxed out of their homes when they're old and fixed income. I'm very proud of the fact that our parks and those things of recreation are free. All of us must have gone to the mainland. I remember my shock when I couldn't wait for spring to go swimming in a pool, and as soon as I got there, they told me, so many cents, please. I said, what? You got to pay to go swimming? And I was in even a bigger shock when I had to pay to go watch 4th of July fireworks. I'm not saying this is wrong or this is right. I'm just saying I'm proud of the values of the Hawaii County tax system. I'm proud that we're the only county that give exemptions to people of the homeowners class to become older, with the realization of principle that they cannot afford to pay more. I'm sure some can, but you can't be selective. Where will we go, Miss Liloy? You're the young one. You're going to have to review that, I'm afraid, because it needs to be done.
On the mainland, they pay for the parks. But because of weather, a lot of the parks are closed 3-4 months out of the year. So they actually have an opportunity to maintain parks or not even fund them with toilet paper because they're closed. But they still collect fees when these parks are open. We, on the other hand, have them open every single day. And I just want to leave that on the table. Not that I'm interested in raising park fees or those types of things, but when we start comparing what people on the mainland do compared to what we do, I think we have to focus on what we have and how to maintain them.